Section 1 kicks off with the why behind automation, the business case that justifies every script you'll ever write. Then we move straight into the layered models, OSI and TCP/IP. These aren't just theory. They're the map you use to figure out where your automation tools and protocols live, and where to start debugging when something goes wrong. Stick with me. This section sets the mental framework for. Let me paint you a picture. It's Monday morning and your boss walks in and says, we're onboarding 200 new branch routers by Friday. Same config, each one. Are you going to SSH into every single one and type the same commands 200 times? Not a chance. And even if you tried by router number 50, you'd have made at least a dozen typos, and your Friday would turn into a weekend incident bridge. That's the problem with manual command line interface. CLI, work at scale. It doesn't just slow you down, it actively creates risk. Human error is the number one cause of network outages globally, and most of those errors aren't because engineers are careless. They happen because copy-pasting configuration into a terminal at 2 a.m. is a genuinely error-prone activity for any human being. Automation flips that equation completely. You write the logic once, test it in a lab environment, and then push it to 200 devices in roughly the same time it used to take you to configure 5 manually. More importantly, every single device gets the exact same configuration, 0 drift, 0 typos, and you have a full audit trail in Git showing exactly what changed, when it changed, and who ran the script. 4 words capture the business case you'll make for every automation project in your career: speed, consistency, repeatability, and auditability. Write those down. Here's the real-world angle that makes this certification matter beyond a piece of paper. The CCNA Auto, Cisco Certified Network Associate Automation. Certification exists because employers are actively hunting for network engineers who can write Python, call REST APIs, and manage infrastructure as code with Git. Job titles like Net DevOps Engineer, Automation Developer, and Network Site Reliability Engineer, SRE, are attached to this cert, and they command significantly higher salaries than traditional CCNA-only roles. Python plus APIs plus Git. If you can walk into an interview and demonstrate all 3, you are in a very short hiring line. Let's get oriented on the exam itself so you know exactly what you're training for and where to focus your energy. The 200901 is 120 minutes long, somewhere between 95 and 105 questions depending on the adaptive version you receive, and you need roughly 825 out of 1,000 to pass. Cisco scores it on a scaled basis, so every domain counts. 6 domains. Take a look at the pie chart. 2 of them tie for heaviest weight at 20% each: Domain 2, APIs, and Domain 5, Infrastructure Automation. Between those 2 alone, you have 40% of your total score. When we get to REST APIs and Ansible and Terraform later in this course, treat those sections with the seriousness they deserve. They're worth nearly half the exam. Domain 1, Software Development and Design, sits at 15%. That's where Python fundamentals and data formats live. And it's exactly where this module begins its second half. Domain 6, Network Fundamentals, is also 15% and is our primary focus for the first half of Module 1. The remaining domains, Cisco Platforms at 15 and App Deployment at 15, we'll tackle in later modules. Here's my honest take on what this exam is actually testing. It is not a trivia test of random port numbers. It's checking whether you can look at a Python code snippet and understand what it does, read a JSON payload and mentally trace the parse path, or pick the right API call for a given automation scenario. That requires practical, applied knowledge, not just memorization. This module builds the absolute base layer of that applied knowledge. Know which domain covers what topic, know where each domain sits in the weight table, and you'll study smarter and score higher. Now let's get into the actual content.